am Sarah Cook, and I am thrilled to be at Perifery. I just joined the team a few weeks ago, and am working with some great colleagues, one of which I have a lot of history, and one of which is brand new to me that I invited here today to talk to you. So Perifery will be at the NAB Show in Las Vegas, and I wanted to introduce you to Jason Perr and Ryan Meek, who will be there to work the booth and show you all of the new and interesting things that they've been up to. So Ryan and Jason, why don't y'all introduce yourselves and talk a little bit about your history with the NAB show?
Happy to, Sarah. So I'm Ryan Meek. I'm the product manager for Swarm. And last count, I've been to NAB 5 to 10 times. It's a wide range because I remember it as kind of a blur between long hours on the floor and events at night that never seem to end. Since we've been back from COVID, it seems like a little more of a work environment, and we were certainly hard at work last year. We had a product of the year win with AI Plus, and we'll be super excited to kind of share the next generation of that product with everyone this year. How about you, Jason?
So yeah, Jason Perr, I'm the CTO of Media and Entertainment Solutions for Perifery. And I've been going to NAB now, it's been about 20 years, except missed the 2 years for COVID in 2021 and 22. But yeah, ever since 2004, so it's been a while. Back then in the very beginnings for me, I was pretty much just walking the floor, looking at cameras and different things for independent film. Then I went into a phase of building out TV studios for smaller organizations and churches that led me into playing with a bunch of big 4.5 ME switchers. And that actually ended up getting me on the show floor. I think it was probably the first time I worked on a show floor was demoing these big 4.5 ME switchers. And then soon after that, I got into the world of media asset management and more focused with a bunch of people over at Apple and Final Cut Server back in the day, and been attending ever since, showing off workflows and automation and helping people understand how they could leverage the media content that they own in more efficient and automated ways. And now we're doing all sorts of fun stuff with AI to really help take things to a whole new level. And once again, be showing people really fun stuff and new things that a lot of people don't know are possible yet, but they'll get a chance to learn and see for the first time, hopefully.
That's really exciting. Well, I'm going to tell you what I'm most excited about. I'm not actually working the show. I'm going to go in the weekend before and have some fun, go to a Mariah Carey concert, then walk the floor, say hello to all of my friends, and then head back on an airplane to Austin before the airport gets all boggled up on Wednesday night again. So I am really glad y'all are going to give me a little preview here. So Jason, I understand that you maybe could share a little bit of the technology that you'll be demoing at the booth.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that we've been showing some people a little bit is our transcribe and summarize workflow that's a part of our AI Plus tool set. And with AI Plus, a lot of people ask, well, what is the plus? The plus is all of the really powerful workflow automation that we've been doing for many, many years. A lot of that workflow automation is built on top of other MAM systems like Iconic, but it sometimes leveraged AI, sometimes didn't, but it leveraged very different AI from the stuff that people have been excited about more recently. And so with the AI tools we're building now and a lot of the things that we're going to be showing, now we're leveraging local AI models that can run 100% on-prem, even be completely disconnected in isolated environments for maximum security, or leveraging cloud AI models that have the best, power, the fastest performance, and really on the cutting edge of all that. But if I just jump in here real quick, one of the things that I've shown a number of people before is this demo we have inside of Iconic. And Iconic's just one of our partners. Everything that we do in this demo, we can actually do directly on the storage itself in disconnected environments. But if you have a MAM, the nice thing is the way we save all of this metadata is we put everything into the actual object metadata itself on the storage, which means integration into any MAM is normally a fairly easy integration that, if we haven't done it already, can be done without too much difficulty. So what we're looking at here is a whole set of assets that have been ingested into this system with no one entering any metadata manually whatsoever. And you can see that for every asset, we have a title, we have an updated title. So the title is what was on the file name originally. The updated title came from the AI. We can see where these files live. So even though we're using a cloud asset management system like Iconic, the source files all stay on-prem. They're in our swarm buckets, or they're in an object matrix bucket in this case. Some of them might even just be sitting on my own laptop like this one here as well. And only the proxy files ever actually go into the cloud so that we can speed up the processing if we're going to use cloud services for any of these AIs. Then we have a complete summary and keywords. And all of this can be fully configured so you can add your own metadata fields with your own prompts to be able to get the best metadata. If we take a look at one of these, for example, like this, how did the sriracha shortage happen video, and we come over here and go to AI summarization, what we can see is that this file, when it first landed on the storage, we didn't know much about it. All we had is the title, how did the sriracha shortage happen?
And that was a crisis in my house. I just want to make sure.
Oh yeah, it was a scary time
awful.
in history for sure. You know, this is something that everyone remembers when this happened. And the scary thing is that it's happening again, although I hear they just recently got to a resolution, but the sriracha company is getting into fights with the farmers that actually make all the peppers. So when this file first landed, though, we didn't know anything about it other than this title. And so the file lands on the storage, and the first thing we do is we generate a transcript. And then once we generate that transcript gets passed into a large language model. And then the large language model is able to understand what's happening in that content. And then from there, we're able to pull out a number of things. So the first thing we get is a summary. In this case, it says the video discusses the history and challenges faced by sriracha maker Huifeng Foods due to a shortage of chili peppers, supply chain issues, and legal battles with former suppliers. Now, I've worked with a lot of asset management systems over the years. I can tell you, in most cases, if you ask people how many assets they actually have that much metadata on, the answer normally is about 0. Because when you have people entering metadata, those people normally don't have that as their primary job. So they want to enter metadata really quickly, which doesn't get to a lot of comprehensive information. If we go beyond the summary, then we get the updated title, the Sriracha Saga, History, Challenges, and Legal Battles. Again, a bit more descriptive than what we started with here. And then keywords, and this is really key, is that historically we've had keywords automatically generated from systems like Google. Oh, get rid of that.
A lunch, sriracha, it does kind of go together.
Exactly, it does. So with keywords, we've had systems like Google that's been able to offer automated keywords from videos for a long time. But the problem with those keywords is that they're normally looking at word frequency. And so you get a lot of words that are just happen to be somewhere in the content or happen to be said more frequently. It's filtering out the ifs, ands, ahs, and thus, and things like that. But they aren't always that relevant. Here, you have keywords coming based off of relevancy and understanding. So if you just look at these keywords like sriracha, Huifeng Foods, chili peppers, supply chain, legal battles, agricultural challenges, pepper shortage, food industry, climate change, and agribusiness, you can actually get a pretty good sense of what this entire video is about without even having to watch it. And then all of this is actually being created in 14 seconds for a 14-minute video. And it has a token count of 3,545 tokens, which means that this basically probably costs somewhere around maybe, this one's probably about 10 cents, something like that these days, depending on which models you use and things like that if you were to use an online model. And while that doesn't sound too bad, imagine what happens when you're processing millions of them. When you have many, many petabytes of data, that's where we've done a lot of focusing on being able to bring these processes down to doing it on-prem, on your storage, in your environment. So you could process 10 petabytes of data today, and then in another year, when all the models have gotten significantly better, you could choose to reprocess them. Versus if you process things on the cloud, you'd spend a fortune processing all that data once and then have to go back and re-spend that money again another time. So
it's probably worth repeating because it's a huge point, right? So if you have petabytes of data and you need to re-pull, and you're pulling that content, and you need to pull each file off the storage and do something with it somewhere else and then put it back in, it's really a huge expense and it doesn't scale. But if you have petabyte levels of archive, or just petabyte levels of content, and you want to reprocess it with the latest models, I mean, we've essentially built into Swarm the capability to reprocess with the latest models, but process in place and not require egress, not require re-ingress, not require sort of pulling it out and putting it into another location.
Exactly. And the cost implications really are huge just on the processing side alone. Part of how I ended up moving toward doing local processing in my early testing of AI models was I remember one of the first tests that I did on one of the major cloud providers. I was following a tutorial and spun up a couple different services, not like online, not even full systems, but just using AI services to process a video. And by the time I had finished my one day, I had racked up almost $100 in charges. I realized really quickly, this does not make any sense at scale, and we had to find a better way. So processing locally is definitely the direction that we're going, but at the same time, there's always still a bit of a hybrid, because while there's a lot of great local models out there and a lot of great things we can do with them, there are still certain things that you just need the power of those giant online models for. So in almost all of the workflows we develop, we build for local processing, and we do it as best as possible today, and we build it to be modular so we can swap out those models as newer, better models come into play. And then we also have the option to process in cloud when necessary. So what you can do is create all of this content for your entire library, process your entire library locally. But then if you have certain content, you just want to get that extra little bit of enrichment because you're going to do something like complete language translation and have it be actually speaking in the person's voice, and you want to have lip sync and all those things. It's one of the examples that we can do all that locally, but it might not be quite broadcast level. If you want to get that full broadcast level, we integrate with someone like 11 Labs that does a great job at doing that at a fairly reasonable cost, as long as you're not processing petabytes of library.
So bringing it up to the NAB level, we first showed this to people running at NAB New York. And Jason, what would you say sort of the top, well, we showed a few different set of features, and we'll be ready to show those features on the floor at NAB Las Vegas. But what would you say, connecting the dots between the two, are going to be the most anticipated sort of features that we'll be ready to demo in Las Vegas?
Well, there's a couple different things. One thing, as far as what we're looking at here right now that we've done a little bit differently, is we've talked to people about how you can control the fields and you can control the prompts that make up those fields. A lot of people don't think about the implications of that. One really simple usage that we did for one customer is they said, well, what if we have people in different areas of the world that all speak different languages? Well, right now, you see all this content and everything's in English. If I switch over to this different user on the same exact account, looking at the same exact storage, now I see all those same assets in French. And I can do that and it's actually a good quality translation because the language model can speak many different languages. So it's actually taking its understanding of the content and then writing a title in French, writing a summary in French, and coming up with various keywords in French. And then again, imagine this across your whole library so that you can enable a global team to all have access to all of the content that you're working with. So that's one thing that it's actually something we've had for a little while, but a lot of people haven't thought about leveraging this kind of use case. And this comes into play because in the configuration of this, we can do this again either locally or through something like Iconic. But on the Iconic side, it's really easy to see here. You just have the metadata field you want, and then the prompt that you want to put in. So when I decided I wanted to get a French summary, all I did is create a field, and then in the value for that field, I put this, generate a summary in French, not to exceed 500 characters, that describes in detail the action taking place in the video, right? So there's a lot of power you can do just in controlling those prompts. Now, the other stuff that we're going to be talking about and showing is things like,
well, that's what I was going to ask you there. That's an amazing amount of progress for announcing the product and winning product of the year for AI Plus last year at NAB Las Vegas. But maybe you can say a few things about that product evolution this year, and then what we can expect to see at the booth this year at NAB.
Definitely. So this year, there's going to be a couple different things that we're going to be showcasing. One is being able to see automatic translation. So imagine having your content where not just being able to translate the text like I just showed, but also being able to actually translate the voice so that you can actually hear the person speaking in another language. This is one of those ones as well that, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, we do it both with an offline process and an online process, because the offline models are really good at being pretty accurate, and they can do great accurate translations. What they're not great at yet is the quality of the actual vocal reproduction. So for that part, you can do it offline, but sometimes it's good to use online. So we'll be able to show and demo those two things and talk about the use cases of where one's better than the other.
Just to be clear, these are best of breed available models, not models that we're developing, right?
Correct. So one thing I always like to show in there is when I first started talking about these AI models at NAB New York a while back, I think it wasn't the last one, it was the previous one. We talked about how you could go onto Hugging Face and there was over 300,000 models that were available. If we happen to take a quick look right now and you go into Hugging Face, there's over 579,000 open source models, of which a vast majority of these are all available for anyone to use. But the trick comes in understanding which one to actually use for what process. You don't want to go wandering into a forest of 500,000 things and try and figure it out on your own.
You sure don't.
Yeah, so that's where, again, we try to be very prescriptive. We do a tremendous amount of testing and analysis of all these models as they come out and keep our finger on the pulse of this industry of AI so that we tell all of our customers anytime we find a new model that we believe is really good at any of the different things we know our customers are doing, and we can make that suggestion, and then we'll implement and test it on our side and give people the option to be able to swap out which models they're using in different parts of their process. And all the code is always written in a way to make sure that those models are interchangeable. Because the one thing we know is we don't know everything. And we know that the models we have today will not be the best models that we're using.
No, they won't. The progress has been too quick. I mean, that's one of the reasons we're kind of building it in a snap-in model, is you want to be able to go forward with the best thing available at the moment, and then not be limited next week or next month by that decision right now. right?
Exactly. And then the other piece of that puzzle is what we're doing with the models, right? Just having a model doesn't mean too much. It's all about, number one, how do you prompt it? How do you configure it? How do you train that model if you're going to train it on some of your own data? Those are all different processes that we have in place to be able to set these models up to work as best as possible. But the other big thing is, in the world of media asset management, all that metadata I was showing, that's great to have that metadata and search through it in a MAM. And MAM systems are fantastic for ingesting data and receiving it from all the different partners and places you need to gather it. And they're great for automating the processes of distribution of content and packaging that content and doing a lot of great, powerful things there. But there are so many organizations over the past 10 plus years that I've been working in the MAM space specifically that buy these really expensive MAMs and spend a lot of money on MAM products when all they actually are trying to do is figure out what they have in their library and be able to search. And to me,
so maybe jumping off from there and looking at the clock, you could comment a little bit on ICE, and then we could talk about what we're excited with at the show. And
exactly,
we're on our way.
That's exactly where that goes. Yeah. So at the end of the day, people buy these big expensive MAMs and all they want to do is be able to find their content. And to me, that's like buying a gigantic toolbox when all you need is a wrench. So I've been talking about it for the last year and a half, that eventually we were going to really build the wrench. And this year at NAB, we have the wrench. The wrench is ICE. ICE is an intelligent content engine that knows and is aware of what your content is, every piece of it. It understands what's being spoken in the content. It understands from a visual understanding what's happening in the content. It understands the written materials by being able to actually digest and read that content. And it understands from listening to all of the audio content. It knows the content better than any person or system or manual entry of metadata or catalog ever could. So with ICE paired with your Perifery storage, all of the content across petabytes and petabytes of that library can be known and understood by ICE, so that you only have to ask the question about what you're looking for and maybe why you're looking for it, so that ICE can give you a relevant answer in the form of content with reason. So you don't get back big lists of metadata. You just get back, here is a set of files, or here's a file, and here's why we think it's going to be what you need.
And I have to tell you, I love the analogy you've been using of a library, of a librarian, because I am the daughter of a librarian. And I can tell you, before the internet was widely available, I could call my mother and say, I did not do my homework this week, and I need you to go find this obscure information for me. And by the time she came home, she'd have everything I needed. So, you know,
exactly.
Having a really knowledgeable librarian, and especially an AI librarian, is just going to revolutionize use of assets.
I really think so. I think that what we've had up to this point in the world of digital asset management and media asset management has really been the card catalogs of media management. And they've been great. Without the card catalog, you would never have been able to find your way through that library. It gave us a way to index things. It gave us a way to manually enter that data and search across that data. And we've come up with all sorts of great tools to be able to get to that data and add to it and work with that card catalog type system. But now with ICE, we're taking a step beyond the metadata. We're leaving the card catalog behind and speaking to the librarian that knows the content, who can speak back to us. And that's what you're going to be able to see and experience at the booth this year.
And we're totally passing by the punch card phase.
That's right. That's right.
Exactly.
I know way more about libraries than anybody really should. But yeah, this is really exciting. And I wanted to make sure people knew we will have our object matrix team there as well. So we'll be able to show you the complete solutions that we offer.
Yeah. And to that end too, the beauty of it is all three of these solutions are designed to work in harmony together, right? With Object Matrix, we have fantastic storage solution that not only has all the great benefits of being a really powerful object store, but also is being able to be mounted over NFS and SMB, which means you can access it directly on the file system, and has great, really powerful hooks directly into the Avid ecosystem so that your Avid editors can actually work with their content in that Avid world and be able to actually archive and restore directly without having to leave the Avid interfaces. So really powerful stuff there. And then ICE, again, is aware of all of that content. Then on the Swarm side, we're being able to actually have all the power and benefits of having this massively scalable, super secure, fully S3 compliant, repository of that content that you're storing with all your most valuable long-term assets, and having ICE be able to actually know and understand the complete depth and breadth of that, to be able to pull that content at any time very quickly in response to what you need. It really covers the gamut of the whole storage story and ecosystem.
Yeah, I like that complete awareness of what you've actually got in your system. I mean, that's huge. I mean, and you look at it, it's funny we've seen so many decades gone by, but you got to think, well, there are organizations out there that are only 3 years old, and then there are organizations out there that are 30, 50 years old, right? The massive amount of digital assets that have grown over just our lifetimes is mind-boggling.
Truly.
It's true. We've actually talked to government organizations at NAB that I won't name, but their archival footage goes back almost 100 years in some cases, and that's content that was digitized. It's content that they themselves admit they have very little information on, and we'll be excited to continue some of those conversations at NAB, which I'm really looking forward to.
Well, I could sit and talk to you two all day long, but I know we've got to wrap it up, and y'all will be at booth SL2089 in the newly remodeled South Hall, correct?
Yeah.
So I absolutely encourage you to make an appointment ahead of time if you want to talk to one of these guys. They are the best in the industry. We are out here to solve people's problems, right? We are a solution company, and we bring not only the technology but the expertise, right? We've got the people who know how to make sure that your workflows all work, and that you have the proper active archive, and that you have the protections you need in place. And it's a really exciting place to be. And again, I just want to say, I'm so happy to be in the fold. Some of you may know I was an original.
Definitely happy to have you here, Sarah. Thanks.
Ryan says,
thanks
I
for
was
shepherding the process.
A Swarm OG. So I'm so happy to be back in the fold and working with you guys again. So if you want to make a appointment, you can go to our website, perifery.com. We have an NAB landing page where you can get to a Calendly, or you can just hit the contact us button and send a message, or contact us via LinkedIn, and we'll be happy to get you set up with an appointment. I can't promise you it'll be one of these guys, but the sooner you get your request in, the better your chances are.
Thanks
Jason and Ryan, thank y'all so much today for spending time with me and with our hopefully visitors that will come see you at the NAB show.
Thanks, Sarah. And
Sounds
thanks,
good.
everyone. See you at NAB.
Thank you very much. We'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Take care.